Finnerty's Mills. Travelling along the tree-lined road from Leitrim Cross to Portumna, a visitor is struck by the peace and tranquillity of the area. Yet, in former times, for 4 centuries, the place resounded to the echoes of industry. In this quiet rural area, there were 2 operating mills on the lands of Mr. Finnerty. One, skirting the main road, consisted of a massive grinding and refining corn mill, whilst the other stood in an adjacent field. This was a tuck mill. The flax was grown locally. During harvest time, it was cut, wetted, carded, and woven on looms in the tuck mill. The fabric was then sent to the linen mill in Loughrea, where now stands the town hall, and the street was known as Finnerty Street. This was the birthplace and the home of the journalist Peter Finnerty. Peter, a true Irishman, was imprisoned twice, once in Ireland and once in England, for refusing to disclose the origin of his newspaper comments. The English garrison, who later lived and operated in Finnerty Street, changed the name to Barrack Street. A visit to Finnerty's Mills is highly recommended. Your hosts, Mary and Sean, will detail and demonstrate the function of each machine. The museum also has many artefacts which are of interest to millers, students, conservation archaeologists, historians, and groups and clubs who want to experience the real Ireland. The corn mill stands by the roadside and has been powered by running water for 4 centuries. Today, a closely monitored stream runs by, a stream which was harnessed in the 1700s and provided energy for the various machines inside. The current is controlled and the harnessed water drives a giant water wheel which powers the pulleys and belts for shelling, shredding, grinding, and delivery of the various aspects of production. Even today, the mill's own water wheel is in full working order, powered by the river that runs by. Finnerty's Mill was built in the 15th, 16th century. Its state is proven by the use of the sparrow tool, which was used by the masons. Masons of 1601 used them. This is evident from the stone adjacent to the door as we entered. Another interesting item is the famine pot. In November 1846, Joseph Bewley of Dublin wrote to Quakers all over Ireland, pointing out the seriousness of the famine of 1845-1847. The wife of the said Joseph Bewley donated 294 famine pots throughout Ireland. Moving on to the corn mill itself, it is impeccable. It has been refurnished to its original state. Mary and Sean give an enlightening talk on every aspect of the mill. We learn that the corn is processed in 3 stages. First, it must be kiln-dried. This involves procuring a fire in the basement to heat the upper floors. A trapdoor allows the corn bags to be raised from the bottom floor. Very simple. Then the corn is levelled out to absorb the heat coming through. Local farmers tended their own share of corn during the drying process. Today, a register is on display where the men signed when their night's work was done. A number of special machines, all powered by the revolving water wheel, now completes the work.
So this is your oat shelling stone. Over there we have the mill furniture taken off, so you actually can see the stone turning. So your dried oats were fed into the middle of the stone, into the rind in there, and they were shelled. This one did the shelling, so you have your bed stone which stays stagnant, and this is your runner stone on the top. There's a set of stones. So
that's the shelling stone.
This is the shelling stone. Now this is this stone comes from Donegal. It's a Donegal quartzite stone.
Bannerher Hill
yeah, it's mined in Bannerher Hill in Donegal, because we had people come who were actually from Bannerher Hill, and there's still some stones there. Yeah, still some of those stones there. There might be imperfect, not perfect stones, but they're left there. So that's your Donegal quartzite, and that's your Donegal quartzite. It's a single stone, conglomerate of single stone. So the oats were fed into the middle. They were shelled down the chute here. You can see the sieve down the chute, into the sieve, into the winnower, and up behind you then, up Jacob's ladder. And into the next hopper then.
Wow.
I'll explain that in a minute. Into the next hopper, and where it was round, and it went downstairs then, and you put your bag underneath and got your pinhead oaten meal.
Excellent. Down to the wheat.
So this is your hopper. This is your hopper here. This is your shoe. This is your ton. It's the ton. This machinery was on all the stones. We just have it taken off because just to show you the Donegal quartzite stone.
Right.
That would be turning at 118 revolutions per minute. So you can imagine the force of that. So this is your shoe. The miller could, depending on how fast the grain will be coming out, he can alter the speed of the grain coming out up or down with the shoe here. This is called the damsel. This metal part is called a damsel, and the reason it's called a damsel is damsel in distress, women were known to be making an awful lot of noise, so it would be, when this would be turning, to be rattling the shoe, letting down the oats, so that's why it was called the damsel. I don't like telling that.
Fully operating, and when you know, all the wheels and all things would be going, the mill would be shaking.
The whole building, it's allowed to, whatever way to design. That's why you probably have the thick walls. There's no foundation per se in this building at all. It's built on the ground, but they were built into the ground this side. You come in the ground level, you go upstairs, and you go out on ground level.
With sincere thanks, we have almost reached the end of our visit to Finnerty's Mills. We are most grateful to Mary, John and Mrs. Finnerty Sr. And we take with us two distinct and memorable stories. On this photograph we see the 2nd Munster Battalion back on the battlefields of Europe in 1915, in the First World War between Germany and France. The Irish were on the French side. The battle scene was Rue de Bois, 1915. On the evening before the battle, a priest called Father Francis Gleeson, a Tipperary man, administered general absolution to the Irish battalion. On the following day, 151 Irishmen lay dead on the battlefield and 220 seriously injured. And now for a happy ending. 1 year later, the Benedictine nuns, living in the Belgian city of Brussels, sought refuge from the Irish soldiers and returned to Ireland with them. They were cordially welcomed and set up in their new home in the gorgeous Connemara Valley, Kylemore. Now for a moment back to Finnerty's Mills. A ground floor apartment is dedicated to artwork. Pride of place is given to a scaled-down representation of a former thatched cottage, and also an artistic definition of Al Church. Those we attribute to Patrick Fahey. And close by stand a perfect reproduction of Finnerty's Mill, delineated by student Aidan Fahey. In conclusion, Finnerty's Mills were vital for the landowners of Leitrim, Dalestown, Al, Killinadima, Kilimer and Woodford. The mill is now a national monument and a protected structure. Sincere thanks to Mary, Joan and Mrs. Finnerty. God bless.
So, but the cold driving over and then put into the dry house. Now, yeah, I can explain this as well here.
And the road into Kelly will put in up the village.
Yes.
Up the village edge.
That's your